Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Edge. I'm Tom Connors. This is 4K4U. With me is my co-host on this journey, Mr. Valliant Renegade. How are you, sir?
Good to be back live at 5 on a Wednesday afternoon. It's been a couple of weeks. Been busy. Good to be here.
You sound like the news now. That was awesome. Well, we're glad to have, so far at least, looks like over 30 people watching. Hit that like button, hit that share button, get the word out. We know there's a lot going on right now, but we're so glad to see so many of you here already. We got a super chat already. Look at this. Arasaka, the non-braced goose, sends in $5. Thank you so much. Says, greetings, gents. I'm looking to move from my 5.1 setup to a 7.2 Atmos. So I am looking for some advice on receivers and speakers, models, watts, etc. Well, Arasaka, the thing is, your options are so much more broader than they were even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago in some cases. I have no idea when's the last time you upgraded or how old your system is now, but you're probably in for a world of discovery. The lucky thing is most setups now are based in HDMI, which helps clean up the mess of multiple cords and all this other nonsense and helps hub everything into one place. So the first thing you're going to want, first and foremost, is a setup that's going to handle 4K pass-through of some type. You're going to want at least enough inputs to accommodate what you need it for. Outside of that, you just want to accommodate your room. And here it looks like you want to do a 7.2 Atmos. Well, in most cases, most Best Buys, stuff like that will have your standard Dolby Atmos systems with the smaller speaker count like that. Fairly affordable. Like you can probably go in and spend anywhere from between $200 and $400 and get a pretty decent Atmos system at most Best Buys or places like that, or even searching through some of the Black Friday deals. You just mainly want at least 100 to 200 watts per channel on that, or depending on your size of your room. I mean, even if you get a system that maybe is a total of 200, 250 watts, if you've got a smaller room, that's going to be plenty. But no, like most systems now handle about 100 or more watts per channel. And yeah, then it's just going to be what kind of speakers you need for your setup. And honestly, I'm going to turn it over to Valliant now because he knows a little bit more about the actual stuff you might be looking for as far as what's in the system, because he actually used to sell these things.
Yeah,
or set them up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that what I would usually do when people were upgrading or changing, you got to remember, I was back in the day when there's still just a lot of 2-channel stereo systems out there, the surround systems that people were migrating to. Dolby Surround, which was the first 5-channel system, you know, you put the center channel in there, Dolby Pro Logic. That's the Pro Logic, the center channel. And then people were stepping up to Dolby Digital, and then you added more channels. So what I always suggest first is, I have no idea what kind of system you have, obviously. I don't know if it's a bundled system or if it's, you know, you bought a separate receiver and you bought speakers, because look, here's the great thing is the speakers that you have now are fine. My recommendation to you would be to just simply find speakers that will sonically match. Yeah, relatively well. So like, for example, if you have some Polk speakers from 10 years ago, sonically they haven't changed a whole lot over time.
Yes, then you're going to want to buy a system for your speakers in that case.
Yeah, you can add a couple of more speakers. Like if you have the center and the right and the left that you really like, and you've got a subwoofer already.
Sony makes a really nice Atmos set.
Yeah. All you got to do is add on a couple of extra.
Cheaper.
Yeah, you just have to add on you know, maybe an extra 2 speakers for some of your Atmos channels. And then, of course, you've got to replace the receiver because you need something like Tom said that has the preamp processor section that's going to handle the newer stuff, right?
So, yeah, so basically what Valliant is saying is like if your speakers are 100 watts a piece already from the system you have and they're not pre-built for that system, then, yeah, I get what he's saying. Kind of build out from there.
Yeah, so you'd be better off spending your money on more receiver than rebuying a bunch of speakers, is my point.
And yeah, you don't have to have special quote unquote speakers for Atmos unless you're trying to do upfiring and stuff. Which if you have a smaller room, that might be something. And for that, what I would suggest is check out some videos on YouTube. There's plenty of them out there that discuss the difference between upfire and your standard Atmos speaker that will just hang or be pre-built into the ceiling or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, like Valiant said on that part, as long as you got decent speakers already, you don't have to go too hog wild. Just find a decent receiver that works with the
Yeah.
stuff you got.
Depends on your
Basically,
budget, Arasaka. I mean, I don't know if you're looking to spend, I want to do an upgrade, I want to spend $500. I'm going to have a very different conversation if you tell me I want to spend $2,000 or
exactly,
5,000. So,
exactly, yeah,
and again, based on what you have now, I might say, hey, yeah, you want to spend $1,000. Well, you already have 5 perfectly good speakers plus a subwoofer. You don't need to go crazy buying all new speakers. Just get 2 more to fill in some extra back channels for the Atmos stuff if you want, and then spend the bulk of the money on getting a really good receiver. So as opposed to buying an all-in-one kit where you might just be duplicating stuff that you don't need to be, like speakers that you already have. So I don't know
right,
what you've got. Let me give me some
yeah,
more details, and I can throw some stuff at you.
absolutely. And then the other thing is too is I would just see what's on sale that you can get your hands on. Then he says, I'm totally swamped by choices. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Like Valiant said, just kind of build out from the speakers you have, as long as they're in good shape already. That way you don't have to move anything. Another option is to go with a soundbar system if you have a smaller room too, because a lot of those now are really, really well done, I guess. I don't have one personally, but again, it all depends on the style and size of your room as well. But if you have some more specific questions, we can probably totally get into those in an email situation as well. If not, we can probably grab some more as we keep going here. Steven sends in a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Says, hail Valiant, Tom, and chat. Thank you for that. Deleted scenes,
And
aka
I see we have
Steven.
a comment from
Sure.
Das Gegenmental in that all this Japan propaganda, German producers make the good stuff, but you really want to pay the money for it. And then he says Bayer Dynamics and other producers. Well, I think he means Bayer Dynamics. I understand that
Oh.
that you do have some autocorrect in the chat, but guess what? Here's your Bayer Dynamics right here. They're on my head.
Yeah, and we'll, the as far as like whatever brand, uh most of them are so good now that unless you're buying some really boxed system that's like cheapo, you're really not in a bad shape. And even a lot of those box systems are not bad either. I've got a Sony one that was basically a box system that still works. It's hooked up to my 3D secondary TV, and it still works just beautifully fine.
Oh
In
yeah,
fact,
for the
there's 2 of the
money.
speakers that quit on me, but the system is still working. I just put
Yeah,
in 2 new speakers.
yeah, and that's just it. I mean, and again, it's all about budget. Like you'll be real happy today with what 500 to $1,000 can get you in these kind
Yes,
of kit systems. And again, and now if you have a giant freaking room, if your living room is 25, by 20, and you have a huge den,
which is kind of like what I have to deal
yeah,
with.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're pushing the limits of what those can do in terms of moving air and filling a room to really
What I
immerse you.
have is a
But
pretty decent system. It's I think it's 500 watt altogether. The 2 main fronts in the center channel get 100 full watts, and then the rest of them it's spread out a little unevenly, but I think, or something like that. It may even be 600 watts. I have to look. Maybe 6 or 700, because it's a 5.1.4 setup.
mhm,
And frankly, I don't ever have to crank it that high. And
mhm.
the powered subwoofer I got was much bigger, better than I thought it could be. Because I was upset that I didn't go with the 12-inch. I only went with the 10, and I'm just like, shit. If I'd have went with the 12-inch, my house would shake down.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, what you can move, like the Martin Logan sub that I have in here with my 2 Joseph Audio towers, these RMS 25Is. That Martin Logan's a 10. The one I have in the other room is a 12-inch Velodyne, and this one's better.
Yeah, and then I just got a couple of towers and
Of course,
hanging
it's 20
speakers
years
otherwise.
newer version of a sub. I mean, the technology has changed so much over the years that, I mean, what they can do with these 10-inch radiators now is just ridiculous.
I guess your next biggest question is how you're going to handle your Atmos. If you need to do upfiring, or if you need to hang it, or if you are able to build it in the ceiling, that's your choices then. That's probably going to be your biggest question.
Mhm.
Um, he says, I'm good with a few thousands.
Thousands. Okay.
Oh, thousands.
Oh, he's got satellite pulse speakers.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. So keep what you got.
Yep.
And what you want to try to do is you need to change your front end out. You want to get if you're gonna go in and get a good big bold receiver.
Onkyo, something like that.
Marantz, Denon, Onkyo's fine. I've got always been a Marantz guy on that end. My system that I have where my surround sound in the den is a Marantz. It's an AV preamp. It's the 8803 preamp. And then I have a separate Krell 5-channel amplifier that runs the 5 speakers. But I mean, I'm on a 5.1 system in there. Now, the receiver is capable of handling the newest sound codecs, but I just don't have it set up. I'd have to throw in some more in-ceiling speakers. I've just been too lazy. So, but yeah, go get a couple of more small poke satellites to use as additional rear channels to build it out. And then just change the receiver to where you can now, accommodate, like Tom said, make sure you get the latest model receiver should have all the newest HDMI protocols, which I think they're on 2.1 now.
Yeah, I think so.
2.1 or maybe 2.2, but 2.1 is fine. I think 2.2 is for like 8K.
Actually, it's like one of the better times because 4K has been around long enough that most of what you're going to need is already going to be built in. So you're going to be good for probably a while then. So yeah, you spend $300-400 at like a Best Buy, or if you have a great, even better yet, if you have like a good local AV store that handles that stuff, themselves, they can help you out a lot more, because then they'll be more apt to answer a lot of your questions than even like a box store will, like Best Buy. But Professor Gray says, was trying to start a fight in the chat, but the group is just too polite. Hell to you both and all the wrenches. Well, we're kind of glad to hear that, Professor Gray, because I'm not even sure if I have a wrench in the chat today.
That's a good point.
So you guys are always well behaved, which is great. And while we got a second, let's say hello to some people. Valiant, what do you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We got Walloween in the chat. We also have Cosmic Squirrel and KR Nut. So look out, KR Nut. That's a squirrel looking for a nut, probably. Professor Gray, as we said before, is here. The young Yoda is here. James Esperanza is here. Ryan Gettig is here. Daniel Davis is here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Duck Nation in the chat. We got Maestro She. We got Saragon72. And we got Pierce Brosnan's actually here. Look at that. The Pierce Brosnan.
I think he spells his name different, though.
I think so. Das Getting Metal, if I'm seeing that right. I'm probably not. Eric Ted, Wood Fractured My Butthole is here. We got Max Mercer, and as I said before, we got Steven. We got Kitty Bear here. How you doing? We got Girthy, guitarist, Samurai Vader, and so many more. Thank you for being here, guys. We appreciate the support. But yeah, as I see in this discussion here early on before we started, you guys were talking a little bit more about the main topic than I thought you would. So we're going to get into that here real soon, because Saragon says, I hope they changed the soundtrack back to the original movie release. Of course, he's talking about The Outsiders, as a few of you were in the beginning. Like Ryan said, the complete novel rocks. 22 extra added minutes of Swayze, Cruz, Dylan, Lowe, Garrett, Howell, Macchio, Estevez. Yeah, we're going to get into that here in a little bit, but we got a little bit of news first. I want to knock out, and then we'll get into that discussion. First, we got some brand new movie news. The Last Duel, Many Saints of Newark, should be coming here in the first quarter of next year.
I'd be curious to know if anybody in the chat saw that movie, The Last Duel, because nobody did.
Well, that was actually coming this year, believe it or not. That'll be out on...
It's already out. It hit the theaters.
No, I mean on Blu-ray. I mean,
oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. I was curious to see if anybody saw it in the theaters.
Oh yeah. It's coming out on Blu-ray on the 14th of December with a digital release on the 30th of November. But yeah, did anybody see that in the chat? Because I've heard a lot of mixed.
I was same thing. So some people, I mean, it looked like an interesting concept. Of course, you had the cast, which was the cast. And but Disney just this was one of these movies, folks, that Disney acquired in the Fox deal, and then apparently they absolutely put nothing behind it for marketing. Like they said, yeah, we probably should spend 50-60 million, but no, just let it go out. It'll do what it's
looks like. CS was disappointed.
and they just buried it.
FD Link said it was a solid 7 out of 10. So see, that's kind of it. It's like a
People either liked it or they hated it.
yeah, that's what it seems to be. So I guess the 30th, I'll check it out maybe, or I'll wait a few extra weeks and just wait for
I
the Blu-ray.
suspect, I think it's going to probably wind up being on either one of the Disney streaming services at some point, like who probably maybe not Disney Plus, but
Unless it
maybe
already had
Hulu.
a pre-deal like Fall Guy did, because that's going to HBO Max because of the deal that Fox already had in place.
Oh, Free Guy, yeah.
Did I say Fall Guy? I meant Free Guy, yeah.
Free Guy, yeah. No, I knew
I
what you
keep
meant.
doing that.
Yeah, that's all
Because
right.
that old fucking TV show. Okay, so then otherwise, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Black Pearl is coming, as I said, in the first quarter of next year. In fact, it's coming supposedly
It's about damn time.
the 2nd of January. Now, this one's going to be an interesting one because I'm curious what the inner positive, if it comes from an inner positive that's 2K, digital one, considering how much CGI is in that movie and the age of it. My guess is that, or are they going to upgrade it in some way? That's my question. I don't know.
I hope they don't just go back to the same Blu-ray scan they already have and do a stupid up convert.
Because I mean, I'm sure they shot it in film, but then when they have to, of course, they have so many special effects in it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
then again,
Oh,
is there really that many compared to some of the sequels? I'm trying to think, because I'm trying to think the only time they really have any is when they go into the shadows, right? And they
turn to skeletons. Yeah, it's the
but
sequels.
how many scenes? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say the sequels where it's heavily laden with Bill Nye plays Davy Jones.
Right.
I mean, you've got that, and I mean, and that's throughout almost the entirety of the movie. Hell, the entire ship, I can't remember the name of the Flying Dutchman. That whole thing is CGI'd, and I mean, unless when they're physically on it, it's not. But when it's coming up and down out of the water constantly, you have. I mean, it's heavy,
how much of the
heavy,
backgrounds and stuff though too. That's my question. Yeah,
oh, tons.
Well, so I don't think this would probably be a CGI heavy as something like Lord of the Rings, but if they manage to go back and rescan the film for most of the stuff, I think I can deal with some up-converted 2K CGI. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. If we know more information on that, though, we'll definitely let you know in the meantime. But that one kind of creeped up on us pretty quick. I mean, there were some rumors that it was going to be hitting soon. Honestly, I'm not sure if it's already. It might be already in 4K on Disney Plus. I didn't even bother to look. That's usually
but you know what? 4K on Disney Plus versus is it really?
Well, no, I know what you mean.
Those are the ones that I tend to think are more up converts.
Well, you've got the compression problem, but my point is like you can almost because their next crop coming out, we kind of pre-predicted because they were the crop of movies that popped up in 4K on Disney Plus, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Hocus Pocus. The only one that hasn't yet, and I'm surprised we didn't get an announcement for this year. I thought it'd be dropping right now. And that was Muppet Christmas Carol in 4K, because it is in 4K on Disney Plus. They just haven't released it on disc yet for some reason.
Yeah.
And I thought now would be the time, being Christmas, but maybe we'll have to wait till next year for that one. That's a plausibility. Because I haven't heard another word about it. Don't know why. But that's the only one so far that I think that has had a 4K master on Disney Plus outside of 10 Things I Hate About You, that it hasn't been announced for some sort of release yet on 4K. And then otherwise, as I said, the Sopranos TV series movie Many Saints of Newark will be coming on 4K on 12/21. So it'll be right before Christmas. That movie, you'll see a lot of releases right before Christmas, and they do that because they want to get you to spend your gift cards on the movies.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's as we get closer to Black Friday, especially because I think movies are a huge Black Friday seller.
Yep.
Which we probably will be talking about as we get closer to that, because I know, I don't know if you do this, but when we get to that week of Black Friday and Thanksgiving, I just park my butt on Blu-ray.com.
Well, there's already been starting some since they've been doing more
and
online stuff already this year.
They automatically update up to the second. Here's the best deals on all the movies on Amazon right now.
And I've already picked up Battlestar Galactica, the original series complete set. I picked up A Few Good Men the other day for $15. Finally got that one. I've been glad I waited on that one. And there's a few other ones that I've kind of waited on that I'm just kind of waiting for them to pop up on the Black Friday sale. The new Incredible Hulk box set. A few other ones too that I've been waiting for. So that's a great idea. Sit on that if you can.
Yeah, they already got their bar up on the website. It starts in 11 days. The deals start on Amazon in 11 days, right on the homepage.
They've been price matching a lot of Best Buys and Walmarts already, though.
Oh yeah, big time.
And then the Hard Target 4K edition will be coming December 7th. So that's a good one to keep an eye out for. I believe that has that new extended cut of the movie. The Green Mile is coming. That'll be on Blu-ray 4K on 2/22/22.
That has not had a 4K release yet, to my knowledge.
No, it just had a Blu-ray release, but not a
Yeah,
4K.
okay.
And if that's anything like
I love that movie.
Shawshank, I'm sure it looked great.
Oh, yeah, Shawshank was just gorgeous.
King Richard, the newer movie, comes out on the 8th of February, and it stars Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. This 1960 film, The Apartment, is getting a 4K release from Kino Lorber. Don't have a date for that yet, but they just announced that, I guess, so keep your ears to the ground for that one. KLSC, I'm not familiar with that company, but they're doing a couple of 4K releases of Dress to Kill from 1980 and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy from 2011. They were earlier remastered by Studio Canal, but I'm assuming they're taking over for their release here in the US. That's a new studio. Or is that Kino Lorber? That's Kino Lorber. Okay, that's Kino. Okay. Took me a second. KLSC, Kino Lorber Studio Classics. I'm like, who the fuck is KLSC? I've never heard of that. Dirt. Okay, so we got a couple more from Kino there. Otherwise, Dear Evan Hansen is coming from Universal on the 7th of December.
I guess I have to buy that one.
No Time to Die.
Yep.
As you've seen, is already hit on digital, and it will be on 4K Blu-ray the 21st of December, just in time to get your post Christmas or just get it for just before Christmas or get it right after with your gift card.
Well, No Time to Die is set to drop on PVOD next week?
It already is, I think.
Oh, now, okay, yeah.
I think it already is, unless it was just an advertisement I saw. I thought it already had.
Well, yeah, no, we're already past the 8th, 9th. Yeah, that was a month after it came. Yeah, 30 days. Yep. That's it. It's on PVOD.
Yep, 45 and
I had no freaking clue they were doing that until like last week when they announced it.
And then Universal Kills and Last Night in Soho are expected on the 11th and 25th of January, respectively. Two Yellow Lines is coming on 11/9 from Universal. And then finally, here's a couple of exciting ones. This is the ones I wanted to get to. Warner Brothers, and these come from some of these first ones, I believe. Okay, these are all rumors, guys. So these are the rumored ones, but these are supposedly coming from Warner, and these rumors come courtesy of Bill Hunt. And he has been pretty spot on with most of his rumors when it comes to the 4K releases. For those who don't know, Bill Hunt runs the digitalbits.com, which is one of the best home video news sites out there and has been for like 2 decades. Looks like we might be getting 4K releases of Singing in the Rain.
Oh, wow.
Casablanca. And then here's the two I'm most excited about. Poltergeist and The Lost Boys.
Ooh, you have my attention.
I think The Lost Boys is going to be a big seller for them because you know how many women I know that's their favorite fucking movie?
I think it surprised me. I mean, the women that we grew up with, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like in our age group, do you have any clue? Like I could name like 5 right now. I mean, it wouldn't mean shit to you because you don't know them, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like I could have 5 people go, hell yeah, that's my favorite fucking movie. I need me some vampire. Mm-hmm. Does it hold up, Stanley? You ask them women if it holds up.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I hope that's true, Entertainment Wizard. I would love Poltergeist is the type of movie that's made for 4K, right? Like it was an expensive, big budget visual effects extravaganza.
Oh yeah.
Well put together film. The Blu-ray looks nice already that we have.
It does.
But if they got all the original negative and stuff for that, which I'm sure they probably do.
Yeah, if they do a proper job, a real proper job. But it's like we always talk about, when you have those at this point, very dated generationally special effects, of how they had to put the ghosts and the poltergeists in there. You always have to be a little bit more careful when you start going into the 4K realm because
the opticals and whatnot,
the flaws get a little bit more readily apparent. So they're going to have to put a new coat of paint on some of those effects, I think, if they do that.
Yeah, and then Guns of Navarone sounds great. Good. I haven't got that one yet. but I'm
Mm-mm.
planning on checking it out. And I guess Dune is getting 3D release. Awesome, Stan. I'm glad to hear that. Then I don't have to go try to see it in theaters. That would be nice. Let's see here. Do we have any more questions before we move on? Because I think that was the most of the new announcements I had. Oh yeah, Some Like It Hot was another one from Kino that got just announced
Okay.
2 days ago as well. Outside of that, that was all the new 4K news that I know of. Now there was one tentative release. Because here's one I don't know anything about as far as, so I'm just kind of oh, the message is also coming from Shout Factory, the Mustafa Akkad film with Anthony Quinn. That one's also coming out. But Wayne's World is getting a 30th anniversary re-release.
Oh.
Now here's the thing with Paramount. As you know, we've talked, I think we discussed this before, but I know I have on the other Blu-ray physical media show I do with the other guys. They like to do 4K masters, but then they're very sporadic on which ones they release in 4K. Because then they'll just re-release a new special edition, but they'll just do a standard Blu-ray. But you can get the 4K edition on digital. I'm curious if this will be another one of those releases. Because I'm not seeing anything about 4K, but I'm seeing a new Steelbook and a new release of... Because the first two movies have been on Blu-ray already.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I know, I don't know if these are anything new. I have nothing about them. All we know is they're coming February 1st. There's going to be a Steelbook for the first film, and you can get the first and second film again in a new 2-pack, which I don't know if you could before, but the ones I have are separate. It doesn't say here in the press release whether or not it's been remastered or anything new is in it. So for right now, I'm going to just guess that it's just a simple re-release of the other version. So until we hear otherwise, guys, I'm going to just say that for now. And I was pretty close on my Venom announcement I'd made on Twitter because I'd heard a little birdie that we were going to hear. I was like a day off from when we heard, but they did announce that this happened in the week we were off. Venom Let There Be Carnage is coming to Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, that is, on December 14th. And the digital version will be available, I believe, 15 days ahead of time or something like that. So like 11:30 or something like that. I can't remember which. But yeah, I knew that was the announcement was coming as well. I heard from that from a little birdie. Other than that, that was all the 4K news I had, unless you had anything new.
Nothing in particular. I'm actually just kind of scrolling through some of the lists now. I think you pretty much hit all the high points, especially, like I said, the Pirates, the Pirates, because I thought that was a bit of a surprise because I think just maybe the last show that I was on, or one of the shows that we've done up to this point, which haven't been that many, that was one of the ones we specifically brought up. Like, where is this one? You know, and here we are. So I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited to see, you know, the other two as well. I've seen some people saying that, you know, there's going to be a box set, but not in the US right away. They're going to be releasing them individually here. So I'm not sure what's what, but that's the only one that I've seen has been the first one, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's all, as far as I know, that's all they're doing. I don't know how the second, see, that's the thing. I think in the second and third one, I might only have 2K interpositives, and the first one was the only one shot on film.
Yeah.
If I have to take a guess.
Yeah, and the Blu-ray copies that I have, because I have the Blu-ray box set of the first three movies, those still hold up extremely well.
Because they shot 2 and 3 together. I remember that.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, the quality of those transfers on the Blu-rays,
they're decent, but they're early Blu-ray transfers too.
They are, but they hold up very well.
Because Curse of the Black Pearl was one of the first Blu-rays I ever had.
Yes, and I remember that was one that was quite frequently used at places like Best Buy. You walked in, it was on all the TV sets. You know,
so hopefully Disney will go back and treat it nice. In fact, maybe after the show, I'll even hop on Disney Plus and see if they didn't put the new version on there and see what it looks like. Unless somebody already knows that in the chat, please let us know. Islington Girl wants to know when is Dune is when is this Dune? I can't talk today. When is Dune coming? The rumor. Let me see here, because I thought, speaking of, yeah, I was gonna say, here it is. Bill had just said that he had heard when it was supposed to be hitting. Shaping up for a 11/1 release, so the 11th of January. That's the target date for now. So there you go. That actually was announced right before the movie came out, I guess. So I knew that was like a while back he had said something. So yeah, that's the news. But so we got a super chat here from Paulus Plain, who says, "My advice to you all: build your own surround sound system like International Space Station, module by module. Love from Norway." Yeah, that's kind of what uh, Valiant was saying. Don't throw out the old if it's still good, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, speakers are usually the last thing to go. I mean, in terms of usability, unless you've blown them up. I mean, again, the speakers I have here are 30 years old, roughly, just
Exactly.
25 years old, and they're great. And the amplifiers work fine. The only thing that I've ever changed out from time to time has been the front end, either the preamp processor or a receiver. If I had a receiver in that room, that you just, you physically can't upgrade the processing chips, the CPUs in there that give you the newer tech like Atmos and DTS HD and all this other stuff. Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw the news. They were talking about this whole thing. We talking about Disney Plus, that they're doing this IMAX thing on Disney Plus, where they're bringing in now the IMAX experience, which they meaning is that
The
they're not
open map versions, yeah.
yeah, they're not going to be, they're not going to be cutting everything to fit your 16:9 screen anymore. They're going back to like it was originally shot, where you're going to have
Well,
some black bars, from my understanding, and then they're bringing in the DTS HD IMAX soundtrack, the uncompressed sound, into some of these features
that'd be
on
cool.
Disney Plus.
But I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
I already have a lot of these movies because I know some of them have got to
right.
be Marvel titles.
Oh, they
Because if
are.
you have the 3D versions of a lot of these movies, they have the IMAX version included in the 3D version. The only
Yep.
ones that hadn't were Endgame and Infinity War for some fucking reason. Like, and Spider-Man Homecoming didn't have any IMAX scenes. So
Yeah, I'm gonna.
outside of those three exceptions, if you have the 3D versions of the movies, I'm not sure about Far From Home because I haven't watched that one
So
yet.
here's the
3D.
list. It is 13 titles available in the IMAX enhanced
I want to guess
format.
most of them are Marvel titles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're all Marvel. It's Disney Plus premiere. This is
Yeah.
going along with Disney Plus Day this Friday, when Shang-Chi drops on Disney Plus for free. Which, by the way, they had their quarterly report today, and guess which division lost money? Theatrical exhibition.
Ah.
For the quarter. Yeah. 13 titles available coming on November 12th. The others are Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh, Iron
Guardians
Man had
2.
some.
Yeah, Iron Man,
Oh, that
Guardians,
one's a
Guardians
plus.
2, Captain America: Civil War, Doctor Strange,
Already
Thor:
have that. Already have
Ragnarok,
that. Already have
Black
that.
Panther, and then Avengers:
I think that one
Infinity
is.
War, Endgame, Captain Marvel, who cares, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Black Widow.
Okay. I'm not sure about Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Mhm,
but I'm happy that they're doing Infinity and Endgame, but I'm pissed they're
mhm.
not the 3D versions.
Yeah.
Because those, like I said, the 3D versions, if you have them already, they already have the IMAX versions on them. And like Mike, oh Mike, how you doing, buddy? So yeah, they just open up for the IMAX scenes because Stan was like, or some not Stan, but somebody else was asking where to go. The entire movie, no, Stanley. It'll just be for the IMAX scenes.
Mhm.
I think Guardians 2 was released in the 4K version with the open IMAX scenes in it, if I remember right. I could be
Could have
wrong.
been. See what they're talking about. They're going to have the expanded ratio coming down at 1.9 to 1. So it's a little bit wider, folks, which means you get your black bars top and bottom. But the way they say this in Variety, and this is the article I'm reading from, is Variety, says, which means that during certain scenes, quote,
Yes.
more of the action is visible on screen. So I'm thinking it
Basically,
sounds like the second Batman movie when they
yes,
transferred it to
exactly.
4K.
Exactly like
And you
that.
had 16:9 scenes, and then
Exactly
you
like
went
that.
to a okay. So that's what they're doing. That's what I
Because
thought.
that's the way it is for all the movies I have now. Because like
Dark Knight.
Guardians
That's what I was
and
trying to
all
think
that
of.
stuff, like
Yeah.
it just opens up for certain scenes. Like Civil War, in fact, only has
Mhm.
one IMAX scene, and that is the airport battle. That is the
Yeah.
only scene that is in IMAX.
Yeah. No, and like you, I have the physical media of all these movies. So I mean, I'm looking at it in its original aspect ratio anyway. I think on
You
most of
are
these.
well, yeah. The
I don't.
main
I
Blu-rays.
don't think any of them are actually smashed for 16:9.
No, but no. What the thing is the IMAX versions are
Mhm.
only available in the 3D versions as of right now on physical media.
Yeah.
Sans the two I said.
Mhm.
Because for some reason those two they only released in the full 2:3:5 ratio without the IMAX scenes included, which pissed a lot of people off. As far as I know, those are the only two titles they did that to. I don't know for sure on Captain Marvel or Ant-Man and Wasp. I haven't watched those yet on disc, and I don't know
Mhm.
if I'll ever open Captain Marvel, to be honest with you. Um,
Didn't buy it. Tried to watch it once on Disney
so they
Plus.
are
Fell
cropped
asleep.
in the regular versions you watch in those scenes, is what it is.
Mm.
So what you'll see now is the open IMAX frame. So it'll
Okay.
basically just be a 2D version of the 3D
I just
versions that
couldn't
are
remember.
already
It's
out
been
there.
so long since I've watched any of these on disc. I just could not remember.
Which means they're probably going to re-release a bunch of them in 4K with those versions is what they're going to do.
You would think
Most
so.
likely. But yeah. So that was, we went a little bit longer on some of that stuff than I even planned on, actually. So thank you so much for the questions, guys, and the updates. We appreciate that. I was surprised a couple of them weren't Star Wars ones, because I think it was Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker had IMAX scenes, I thought. Maybe even Force Awakens did too.
I think they don't want to announce anything with those films. They
You
want
could be
people to
right.
I think they want people to forget that those damn things are even there. They
Could be
have to
right.
keep them on the streaming service just to be nice. But hey, look, wait till Friday when this Disney Plus day goes off. I mean, today was earnings, Friday was Disney Plus, so we're gonna get a lot more information Friday on other stuff coming out that we'll see on Disney Plus. Probably maybe some other physical media stuff
Yeah.
too, or at least find out something.
See, Aaron, I'm curious how these are going to play in the 2D versions. Because, like, specifically the one I remember is Guardians of the Galaxy has 3D effects that during the non-IMAX scenes, when there's the black bars there, they
Mhm.
utilize that space so things like pop off of the black bars into the space. Like, there's the one scene where they're playing with that creature game in the bar setting,
Uh-huh.
and it flips up in the air, and it actually flips out of the black bars, so it actually looks like it's coming out
Coming
of
out
the
of the
picture.
frame.
Yeah.
Well, in
And
fact,
it'll just kind of lay flat there on that version. I don't know.
you say that, but that's the image that they're using to promo what they're doing on Disney Plus.
No
It's not
shit.
not that specifically, but it's an image of like Iron Man flying, and you see the letterbox bars top and bottom, and you see Iron Man's physique penetrating through the natural frame into the black areas.
Interesting. Well, they might have
So
done something special for that for the first
yeah,
Iron Man movie, because
that's
I've never seen. I didn't even know
it's
they
on
did
the
IMAX
Variety
scenes.
article. I mean, but
Yeah,
I think it's on the Variety one, but
was
that's
this
the
Iron
image
Man
they show.
3?
I mean, it was a mock image, but they were deliberately,
Gotcha.
obviously trying to make it look exactly like what you
The
just
only other movie
described.
that I know that did that, surprisingly, was Ghostbusters 2016. They didn't have any IMAX scenes, but they utilized the IMAX screen by using the black space for like ghosts and the streams to fly off and make it look like they're actually coming off the screen.
Okay.
But yeah. So, all right, let's talk about the main topic. This one I wasn't even planning on being the main topic today. But as you see here, there's a foreign release coming of this that I might even pick up, even though I've got the current release. This is one that Zavi's selling right now. It's got all kinds of goodies with it. That's the foreign release. But right now, this week, Warner's released The Outsiders on Blu-ray. You didn't even realize you had pre-ordered it, but you guess yours not showing up till tomorrow, you said.
Yeah, I went and looked, and I'm like, okay, wait, I did have it in a pre-order bucket, and it says, yeah, it's arriving tomorrow. I'm like, okay. This is how many of these things I tend to click on and order from time to time, and I forget until they get here. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to pre-order that.
Yeah. And I was surprised how many people were chattering about it in the beginning. As I said, I knew we'd have some fans. I know it's a popular film in the U.S., but I brought it up to Andre this morning. He's like, "What? Never heard of it." Like, which is funny because we
It's
mentioned
Karate Kid before he was Karate Kid.
yeah, he's got everybody who was anybody in that era before
Oh
they
my
were
God,
huge
yeah.
stars, right? I mean, the cast alone. Oh my God. You've got Patrick Swayze, you've got Emilio Estevez, you've got Kevin, it was Kevin Dillon, right? Yeah, Kevin Dillon, and you've got, T. Thomas Howell, you've got Ralph Macchio, as you mentioned, you've got
Emilio Estevez and
Emilio
who else?
Estevez.
Yeah.
Did I say him already? I thought I did.
Maybe you did, yeah.
Or did I
It's a lot. There's a lot of people
so
in
many.
there.
Diane Lane is in it when she's 16 years old. I mean, Jesus
That's
Christ. I mean,
freaky.
the fucking cast is amazeballs. Did we even say Tom Cruise yet?
It's not. People forget about it, and I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, and you probably did too. And I don't know if they still. I think they still have to read this book in schools. But
I don't know if they'll make them read it anymore, but I know it used to be a staple.
I mean, yeah, we all had that growing up. Like you got to the point. I don't remember what grade it was, but I mean, everybody had to read The
Usually
Outsiders.
6th, 7th, 8th grade, middle
Yeah,
school.
and then you wound up at some point. When they rolled the TV in on the cart with the VCR. And they put that movie in, and you'd watch The Outsiders. I remember watching that in school. I think.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because that's how the movie got made. A librarian from a school sent a letter to Francis Ford Coppola and said, "We nominate you to make the movie of this novel." And the teacher, the librarian or whatever, kind of wrote out in this novel how it's beloved novel, read in every single school in America, and of all the directors, we nominate you to make this movie. We think you can do it justice because of The Godfather, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a big signed petition from a bunch of 13-year-olds in the class at the time that were reading the book.
Yep.
And he got this letter, and he was so just it was so heartwarming to see. And it came with a copy of the book, so he's like, well, I guess I better read this book. And Francis fell in love with it, of course, because it's almost like I'm sure it speaks to him in a lot of the things growing up, and the era and stuff like that. I mean, sure, it's set in that a little bit later than his era, but I mean, I'm sure he could relate to a lot of the stuff in the book because of how well it was written. And the book, of course, at the time, oh God, the author just fucking left my brain.
S.E. Hinton.
S.E. Hinton,
Yeah.
of course, as most people know, was only 16 when she wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a book about teenagers from the aspect of teenagers, and it was kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High before Fast Times at Ridgemont High, because she used a lot of actual people and events to kind of inspire the story. And in fact, like the scene where Diane Lane's character first meets the boys is, I guess, taken directly from an incident that she witnessed and was a part of as a kid. So that's why it speaks to the realism of the story, and Francis did an amazing job of capturing it. But famously, it's always been a bit of I will say this, I like the film, but I've never been like a huge fan of it. It's been one of those rare films where I'll say the book is a little bit better because it's just mainly missing the bits that it needs. And Francis heard that. He heard that from a lot of people over the years. And he's like, you know what? I filmed all those scenes. They're there. So a couple years back, he reinserted all of the scenes again. So he made basically the most complete version there is available. I don't even know how much is missing, but not much. And he called it the complete novel.
Yeah.
And that was the edition that was released on Blu-ray a few years back. And he redid the soundtrack as well. Because I'll tell you what, I know somebody asked about the soundtrack earlier. The soundtrack is one of this movie's problems, and I understand where he's coming from. His dad, bless him, did the soundtrack and was inspired by the whole running idea of Gone with the Wind throughout the film, because it's a bit of a motif and it has a little bit of a kind of a through line throughout the film. And they really play it up with the sunset scenes and the Stay Golden Pony Boy and all that kind of shit, where he's talking about the sunsets. Mm-hmm. So the way Francis's dad scored it is he scored it like Gone with the Wind. And Francis at the time just didn't have the balls to tell his dad that's not the way he wanted to go. He wanted something that was more time period appropriate, a bit more, rockabilly sounding.
Yeah, which you would expect.
Yes. Kind of more in line with like some more of the hits of the time and a little bit more of the guitar and, just kind of emulating the type of music they would be listening to in that time period. So in that version, he did change the music. And I know some people didn't like that. But I, for one, was never a big fan of the original soundtrack because it made it sound like a fucking TV movie. And it really took away from the movie. And I didn't watch the extended cut yet, but I did watch the theatrical cut last night. And I'll tell you, it still has that problem. But the picture at least helps being, not off of VHS. Because back watching this on VHS as a kid, it feels like a TV movie.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the reason I brought this movie up today. And I know this has been a long spiel to get here. But we've been doing the show this is our 5th show now. And one thing that I've noticed in a lot of movies, and you guys probably have too, is whenever there's titles, opticals, certain special effects, even just certain crossfades between scenes, the quality of the picture will go, from really, really great to not so great. And that is because a lot of times these titles, opticals, and fades are all kept on a dupe negative. Right, because they're actually back then they actually had to do an optical process to do that. Like they'd have to actually send this off to a house. If they want a crossfade, an optical house would actually have to go do that crossfade for them, and then they would send it back. So 9 times out of 10, they would send them what would be like a 2nd or 3rd generation from the negative version that they wanted to be cut together. That company would cut it together, send them a brand new version of that, and then that would be inserted into the negative. So then what you would have is anywhere from a 3rd to 5th generation away from the original negative insert, and it really is jarring, and it has been in certain movies. I mean, it's clear if you're somebody who's watched a lot of 4K movies, you notice it. Now that I've said it, you'll probably notice it even more. So, what's unique about this release, guys, is that Francis Ford Coppola is meticulous. He saved every last damn thing he could for everything he's ever done, I guess. Dating all the way back to, I think his archivist said like in the 69 or something like that. Whenever it was he shot his first short film, he's got everything. Okay. Now, basically what that means then is he saved every generation of whatever he needed for these opticals and everything else. And if you've watched, of course, those who've watched the film know there's a few scenes where there's a lot of optical stuff where layered images and stuff like that. So what they've done is they've gone back and redid all the opticals. They have the original cinematographer there to help with the color timing and timing of all the optical effects. And it looks brilliant. It is probably one of the most brilliant 4K releases I've ever seen. And that is because all of the fades and everything like that, the optical effects are all done in digital now in true 4K. So there's no generational loss between all 3 or 4 images or whatever it is they're mixing together. And it looks amazing, guys. And I think this is a really big deal, and it should be talked about a little more. And it's what a lot of these guys should go back and do if they have the ability to.
That's the catch is if they can, because there's probably not many guys out there like Coppola that
exactly
like,
there's
are
that
so
asterisk.
Anal retentive that they're keeping this stuff because yeah, exactly what you said. And when you, for everybody out there to understand, you're basically talking about almost re-editing the whole movie. You're clipping the whole movie together.
That's exactly what it is. It was reconstructed from top
it's
to
not
bottom.
like we went back from, here's a reel. We're just going to scan start to finish. It's like, no, we got to go back to the original stuff that came out of the can of the Panavision camera that Coppola was shooting with in 82 or whatever it was. Pull that original stuff out and literally go back and find, oh, wait, it was this take, this shot, and then reconstruct the whole damn thing because it's a lot easier to do a crossfade in Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve versus having to physically manipulate
exactly
a negative and doing it. So, yeah, I mean, it's incredible because I don't know if anybody's done this before.
I think this is the first time ever, to be honest with you, because all the other 4Ks I've ever watched, that's just the way they are. They can't go back unless they have those original elements and they actually go back and re-put it together. There's no way you can do that because, like, that's the thing is the cinematographer said it. That's the great thing about technology now is we can reproduce those fades and those optical prints in no time flat, and we have the original to reference from, so that we know we're doing it correctly. And I mean, he even said he had to be able to kind of rein back. He's like, I got to remember that I've got more tools now than I did then. And I don't want to go overboard.
I was going to say, it's easy to go crazy when it's like, now look at all this shit I can do. But if you got to keep it in control if you want to stay true to the original. It's like, hey, look, we couldn't do this kind of wipe. We couldn't do this kind of fade.
Well, not just that, but the color timing and certain other things too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see this thing. It's going to be here, like I said, hopefully tomorrow, according to Amazon.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of new features. It carries, as far as I can tell, it carries over all the old features they had on the last release they had. But I don't believe the theatrical edition was available on that release, and I think that's why somebody asked that earlier. This one does have both versions, and I know they've reconstructed from top to bottom the theatrical version. I have not watched the other version yet. I want to do that. I wanted to do that before this show, but I didn't get a chance to. I just didn't have the time because I just got it yesterday, and I just watched it this morning. And I was blown away by how great it looked. And I had no idea of that. And they have a documentary on the disc where they talk about the full restoration of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I think this is even a bigger deal than it goes beyond this film is George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola all scanned their films in like 6K at the same time. And this was a few years ago. So my guess is he's going to do the same thing with the Godfather films, and that would be great. So that means if we get everything from first generation negative, those films will look so fucking... They already look beautiful on Blu-ray.
I was going to say, I have the Blu-ray collection. I have no complaints about it. I mean, could it be better? Yes. But I'm like...
Well, those are from that 6K scan. That's the beauty
right.
of it.
And that's what I'm saying is that if he can really open it up, and again, especially with the high dynamic range HDR10 process, much more color depth and all this kind of stuff. I can't I can't wait to see it.
Well, I have a feeling they're going to do a big release of The Godfather next year because there's been rumblings of it. He just did his new cut of part 3, which means he's probably doing that to every film. He's reconstructing them from top to bottom, is my guess. The only one exception might be part 3. He might just rescan that and not spend the time on it. But considering the work he put into this, I would be surprised if he didn't. I think we're going to get a really massive, nice box set. Because in fact, I would say he's done the best so far with his releases on that respect. So if he continues down that road, we're in for some good releases from him. The American release of this is not as great as that Zabi one. It doesn't have all the goodies in it, but man, I'm thinking about getting it because the price is not bad either. It comes with the soundtrack and the Blu-ray versions, because the version that's out there now, you just get the 4K discs. On 2 separate discs, you get the theatrical edition on one and the extended cut on the other.
What was that, $10 more for that one?
Yeah, it was only like 10 or 15 bucks more. And I'm like, shit, I wish I'd have known. I'd have waited. But then again, I can re-gift this to somebody and just get the other version too. So
yeah, if you want all the extra goodies and you like the collector stuff, then yeah, why not?
Exactly. Again, I think this is a nice move and we need to call attention to it. And hopefully more films do this if they can, because it does make a difference. And I don't have a problem as long as they can match the titles and the fades and all that kind of stuff. I have no problems at all. And it's in this day and age of technology, it's easier to fuck it up. I know that, but if you got a hand doing it that knows what they're doing, that's what matters. And in this case, they were lucky enough that the original cinematographer is still alive. Francis Ford Coppola is still alive. And this is something they discovered in between the original Blu-ray release and now. Because they did reconstruct the other cut, but they knew that they needed to do this for the theatrical cut too. So they actually went back and took the time to do this. So that tells me we'll probably get a massive box set for The Godfather. It'll probably have all the theatrical cuts, and it'll probably even have that extended TV edition of 1 and 2 cut together. Yeah, is my guess.
That thing will sell like a monster if they do that.
I think so. I think so. Naked Fame has a technical question. The zoom and enhance software from Apple filter.
Oh God.
Here we go.
All right.
I was watching this live. I was
with this over Rikita Law. Yeah.
Yeah. That was amazing. Those guys are doing a great job. I think they're still live now, but
if you guys are, it's been over for like an hour and a half, and there's still 50,000 people watching them just bullshit and read super chats.
Like they're like the second or third most watched people now showing the trial. Because I don't know if you looked at the other numbers. PBS had the most. And then there was like one other news organization, I can't remember which one, that had pretty high numbers, but like Rikita was beating them all. I think C-SPAN, but Rikita was beating all the networks and everybody else by a long shot. And I mean, not just by a little, but by a long shot.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't want to get too much into that. But what I do want to get into is if you guys have any questions. Let's see here if we have any. DMV Trek Sci-Fi Chick wonders, is there a website that actually tells you which 4Ks are worth getting? Yes. In fact, we shared that a few weeks ago. Let me see if I can bring that up again. But there's a couple websites that actually tell you the source of the releases, and that's a good indicator of whether or not you should bother. Let me see if I can grab that for you. See here.
Yeah, some of them will give you the history of it. Some of them will give you an actual rating. So like while Tom's probably pulling one up, like I use Blu-ray.com, which is just blue BLU-ray.
I don't know if they tell you everything there, but here's like one website I use, and there's other ones that just kind of list them all for you in alphabetical order and stuff. So it's easy to figure out. And if it's something that you already have and it's only 2K up converted in most cases, you're better off not worrying about it. So, but that's one of the better places, if not a show like ours, because we do our best to do our due diligence to find out whether or not it is coming from what type of source. And that's why we're asking the question now about, in fact, we had a little conversation before we got into the show about Pirates of the Caribbean. And until it comes out, we probably won't know more about it, but we were curious how it was shot, how they're going to handle the special effects and, all that kind of business. But then Valiant did remind me that the second and third film have more special effects than the first one. So that's probably part of it.
But as far as I know, they still shot all 3 on film, because that was
that could be. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was enough after the prequels that they could have shot on digital, but maybe not.
Yeah, I think when did the second and third ones came
Because
out?
now that now that I'm
It was
talking about
before
it,
2010.
but for
Pretty
some reason, I
sure.
think they were one of the first ones to use like the Red 5 cameras or something like that in the big battle sequence or something.
Maybe at that ends because I remember watching the making of, and they basically what Disney did was they just took over a massive airport hangar, like for a 747, and they
Right.
built both the boats. They built the Black Pearl and they built the Dutchman on these two giant gimbals. And I mean, they were full size ships inside this airport hangar, and they just twisted them around and they green screened the whole thing. Now they may have used some digital
I
cinematography
think that's the
for
one
some
they
of
did. Is
those.
they were like one of the first ones to
Yeah,
use
and
like,
that was in that last scene in the third movie where they
yeah,
have the
that's what I'm thinking.
maelstrom, the vortex going in the water. Yeah,
Yeah, you're probably right. They probably shot 35 for the rest though.
yeah, no reason not to. Not at that point
Yeah.
because that was
All
still really
right.
early for digital.
And DMV Trek says thank you and you're welcome. We're here to help. That's the whole point of the show. And I'm so glad we have at least 100 of you watching today. Considering there's so much more going on, I appreciate you guys being here. Raptor says the movie Outsiders is a masterpiece. Yeah, it's a very well done film. I'm curious to see the complete novel version. I've not actually watched that version yet, so I wanted to see the theatrical again to be reestablished with it before I watch it again. So let's see here. Was there any other questions that didn't have anything to do with pixels and zooming? Somebody had asked a question about HDR earlier here. Where'd it go? Is HDR 4K SXHBK? Um, Technically, yes, but you can do HDR grading on other things, I guess, but they haven't at this point.
Hmm.
I'm assuming they could if they wanted to. Uh,
I think the idea with HDR with high dynamic range version 10, which is what they use now when they're doing these 4K discs, is because at 4.4 megapixels, which is what 4K is, or excuse me, 8.8, excuse me, 8.8 megapixels, which is what 4K is. They have the capacity now with 10-bit video, which is not to get too deep in the weeds, but it's if you shoot digitally, if you have a digital camera, you're telling the camera what type of format, and take the strobe off because this one does video. So this one will actually shoot 5.5K, right? And I can sit here and I can tell the camera, well, I want to shoot in 8-bit 420 color space, or I want to shoot in 10-bit 422 color space. So 10-bit 422 is what gives you it's a higher bit depth. You capable of putting a lot more color information and detail that frankly you really couldn't do near as much with high definition because it just wasn't there. Now if you were shooting in a raw format like on a real high-end professional cinema camera like an ARRI or something like that, then yeah, and which is what they shoot these things in. So when they're shooting on these ARRI cameras, they're shooting number one currently in 4K or higher, 6K, some cases 8K now, and they're shooting in a raw format, which is a 14, or in some cases in the newer ones, up to 16-bit. And they're squashing that down into a 10 or 12-bit, image quality, which is still very high. So 4K, when you're doing this on these discs, because they're filming in these very, very high dynamic range captures in a camera, sometimes up to 15 or 20 stops on some of these things,
or to
ridiculous.
try and recapture film in general, yeah.
Right. Or to recapture film, 4K, the way 4K works, the size of the discs, I mean, a 4K disc is a 100 gigabyte capacity. Okay. So you can get a lot of data on there, and they can do this much greater color depth on these discs that up to this point they really couldn't do, and now they have the capacity for it. So I mean that's
And
kind of the bottom line.
it's actually taking the highest highs of the whites and the lowest lows of the blacks in
Hmm.
every scene usually. If they do it right, they do it scene by scene, but there's been some good HDR grades and there's been some poor ones. Most of them have been done pretty well. But yeah, and then basically what it does is calibrate the system so that you're seeing everything the way you're supposed to be seeing it. And stuff isn't too blown out or too dark, or you can
Right.
actually still see the shadows in the darkness.
The
You have more
detail in them.
variance
Yeah.
between the detail. You get a lot more colors, and variance in the colors.
Hmm.
And yeah, like Stan Lee brought up here, and this is why I think there is technically says some 1080p projectors say HDR, but not sure if that means they accept HDR or display HDR. That's a good question, Stanley. And going by some of the way my one player works, it's almost like set up to where like it's like you could release HDR on a regular disc, but you would just have to have a player that handles it. But in most cases, it's not so much, it's the other way around. It's usually you'll get plenty. I've gotten a handful of 4K discs that don't have HDR on them. They're just
Mhm.
flat 4K transfers.
Right.
And it does make a little bit difference. And what again, I don't have all the technical ins and outs. There's probably a dozen videos out there that do a better job of explaining it than I could.
But what I was gonna say
But
simply
yeah,
was you could have saying the words high dynamic range or HDR, that's just a generic term, right? Because I can take HDR photographs with this Canon R6 or an R5 or the new R3, whatever. It doesn't matter. High dynamic range is high dynamic range. When we're talking about it in terms of a 4K disc, a Blu-ray or whatever, we're talking about a specific format type, which is, in this case, HDR10. This is a specific process
yeah.
versus
There's
just the generic
classic
term.
HDR, and then there was
Yeah.
HDR10 and Dolby Vision. Now, yeah,
Yeah. HDR10 is a specific certification slash process that's going on. It's not just the generic high dynamic range term. So,
right.
mhm.
Yeah, and then that's really what it is. It's just kind of a process, and then yeah, like Stanley's doing a pretty good job of actually explaining it here. But yeah, yeah, it's more to do with the gamut of brights and darks and colors you can get into the picture comparatively to regular Blu-ray. Now, a good Blu-ray mastered from a good 4K master
Mhm.
will look good, but as long as they do a great job on the other end of that 4K master, it's a world of difference. So
Mhm.
there you go. Subscribe to this channel, says Buffy the Vampire Slayer has to have the worst HD remaster anyway. Yeah. Well, that's the one where they zoomed in on it too. That's why. And I'm not so sure if that's not much more than an up convert, because I think they've done that to a few shows now. Yeah, and that's just what I was just saying.
Yeah,
It's
and
also
Stan,
is
he's absolutely right. And like I said, what I was getting at is that if we're talking about like the yes, you can have high dynamic range in any format. He's right. It's
some
relationship to
phones
chrome and
even
color.
have it to where it has it built in.
Right, a little Apple screen or something like that. But what I'm talking about specifically is the HDR10 process that has only been implemented thus far with 4K Blu-rays. That's,
And this is a very good um or I can understand your reservations here, DMV Trek Sci-Fi Check, because I was a little bit of a I didn't get into 4K until a little later. I bought a lot of films, but I didn't really dive into it until more recently. But yeah, at this point though, chances are there is not going to be another home format after 4K. It's probably the end of the line.
I would agree with that.
The way things are going, it's all going to be digital from here on
There
out.
will be probably some niche stuff, but in terms of like broad format, like right now, like every studio is producing libraries of content in 4K. They're producing, and I'm talking about physical media 4K.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think even with all this, well, now we're going to go to 8K. Now you're going to talk about, I mean, a disc. I mean, we just went from a 25, and I was trying to reach for one. I don't have one handy, but a 25 gigabyte Blu-ray. Then we had to go to a 100 gigabyte 4K Blu-ray, which is where we're at now. You realize if you go to 8K physical media delivery, you are now talking about a 400 gigabyte disc.
Yeah, and from what I've been hearing, chances are we won't use a lot of 6 or 8K technology outside of professional work like the medical and science industry.
Right. You're talking about a
And
32
yeah,
megapixel image. Just so everybody's clear, because when you go from 4K to 8K, you're doubling again, just like from Blu-ray to 4K, you're doubling horizontal and vertical resolution, number of pixels. You're going from 8.8 to now over 36 megapixels, 40
basically the
megapixels.
next step from here would be like holographic 3D, which I still feel like is quite a few years off.
Yeah.
And that's the only way they may be able to utilize like 6 or 8K technology,
Yeah. And
because you
they are
just
like
have to have that much just to be able to run it.
right. And they do shoot like a lot of the Hollywood movies you're watching now shot digitally are being shot a lot of times nowadays with some of the new RE cameras in 6K or higher. Now, they're starting to shoot a little bit more in 8K, but they're not delivering it that in that format. They're shooting it there to get the highest image possible on the front end, and then it gets smashed down into a deliverable format like a 4K.
Yeah, and the other problem we run into is what we were talking about with Pirates of the Caribbean earlier as well. And that is we have a good now almost 2 decades worth of films that were mostly shot in digital, and if not shot in digital, were definitely finished in digital.
Mhm.
So unless they go back and reconstruct them and redo all the special effects and shit, you're not gonna
Exactly.
get a true 4K version of it.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen. Like I've said many times over, even though they are out there, those 4K versions of the prequel films are not true 4K. The only one that is technically the first film, but even that is only during scenes that have no CGI in it, which is what, 20% of the movie if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Other than that, episode 2 and 3 were shot at 1080i native.
Yeah. There's not much you can do with it beyond that
No,
point because, I mean, you're still talking about up converting and
I think that's what Lucas did was up converted all the CGI effects
mhm.
and the video. So I have not
And they're
seen.
still doing that 20 years later. I mean, that's basically what they're doing. They're shooting in 4K, take a in game or whatever. I don't care. You shoot it in 4K, shoot it in 6K. It comes in. You do all your color grading and all your fixing on that. But then once you have to go to post VFX and you have to start putting in CGI, you're taking that and you're smashing it down to 2K DCI,
There's
which is
only a few
slightly
movies
above
that I
high
know
def.
of. Yeah, there's only a few movies that I know that have been full 4K from beginning to end in recent years, and that has been like Gemini Man.
Hmm.
I think the Hobbit trilogy was one of the first, if not the first. Um, there's a couple other big movies. I think Valerian was one of them. For some reason, I want to say, what's that one? Ghost in the Shell? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Oh, well,
If
I
not,
don't think I've
no, not Ghost in the Shell. The other one, the one that James Cameron produced that everybody liked.
Avatar.
No, 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 no. The one that he just produced with the chick, the robot chick.
I don't know.
Alita, Battle Angel.
Oh,
I think that one was done completely in 4K as well. Um,
even the post production.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I got you.
And I know Arrival, I think was, and I think Blade Runner 2049 were. So I'm assuming Dune was as well. Um, yeah, everybody finally got it just because they're on the
Well,
15-second
yeah,
delay.
I see that. Well, I was going to say, look, it is starting to catch up now to where your processing power and Stan had brought this up earlier
They've
about
been very, yeah, they've been very selective
yeah,
on what they do. That's the thing,
it's
because it takes so
coming now.
long. It takes 4 times as long, basically.
Yeah, it's coming now, and a lot of, and I mean, not to veer too far off course on this one, but for example, the big Apple event that happened a few weeks ago where they announced the new M1 Pro and the M1 Max processors because you got to remember a lot of these studios that use Mac machines to do kind of stuff. Um, they're using and these processors they're coming out with are freaking they're ridiculous. I bought one of the new laptops. I'm waiting for it. And then I'm going to be upgrading my desktop with it just because of the sheer power. But they're sitting there, and some of the guys that got these laptops now, they're playing back red raw footage in 8K and some crazy stupid stuff. And it's just the computer's like, hey, how you doing? It's ridiculous. It's so my point is they are getting to the point now where especially since Apple is in partnership with Taiwan Semiconductor, they're developing these 5 nanometer chips. The 3 nanometer chips are coming, and these processors are just capable of absolutely just the amount of power they can put out is ridiculous. It's going to be there sooner than later where they're going to go 4K start to finish. There's not going to be any 2K DCI conversions anymore
Yeah, it's just
because
going to take a few years.
they're
Yeah.
they're going to be able to animate straight through, and the computer's just going to be like, I'm bored. What else you
That's
got?
all we're waiting
That's
on
where
right
we
now.
are.
You're
Yeah.
right. Because right now the problem is with 4K is it takes 4 times as long. Like that's the
Yeah.
problem. 4 times
Yeah.
the space, 4 times everything.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, you look at a movie that was shot just even 5, 6 years ago. I mean, that's why, because the processing power, the computers, even when they were sitting on 40 and $50,000 Mac Pros in there, those machines cannot keep up with what Apple just released last month for $2,000.
yeah.
And
And
I'm not even joking.
And Victor Fontaine, you're probably right here. I don't think there is an optical disc at this point that could probably handle a 4 or an 8K, maybe a few seconds of 8K.
That's just it. You could
Yeah,
probably get like 20 minutes on a current
maybe.
4K
Yeah.
Blu-ray disc at 100 gigabytes. You might get 20, 30 minutes on there. That'd be it.
And yeah, that'd be about all of it. And
Mhm.
honestly, I think the technology is set up to where they could just, you shouldn't have to upgrade from here on out. Like it almost should be able to handle the upgrades in the upticks in the resolution. It's just that we don't have anything to watch them on.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's the way this shit's set up, but you're right. Like we'd have to have like quad layer discs and shit.
That'd be
So I think
insane.
we've got up to triple layer now, and that's the most we've gotten.
Yeah, and I see Larry's comment. Mac Minis are lined up in racks. Yeah, those are called render farms.
Yep.
That's what that is.
Render farms. Yep.
Yeah, and they're about to replace all those render farms with the new Mac Mini coming out with the new M1 Maxes and Pro chips that are
Yeah.
supposed to be hitting around March. So
Honestly, I thought we'd hit a point where we would have like movies on hard drives, like we'd literally kind of go back to like a cartridge. But no, like technology has advanced so much that digital just kind of swooped in. Because I thought we'd go from a disc based to a some kind of like even like a USB based.
yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
thought
it's
was
like
next.
you'd buy your movie and you'd buy your movie on a stick. And just
Exactly, like a little cartridge or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you can put 1 terabyte, you can put 8 terabytes on these things now. I mean, but
I
I
mean,
mean, yeah,
that
but
could
that's
be
just
the
it.
next stack, but I doubt it. I just don't
Mhm.
see them because you just why would you when you can just transfer it digitally?
Yeah. Yeah, and look, it's happened with music now. You buy these music services.
Exactly. Yeah.
You go, hey, I want this song, and you subscribe to a service, and you can go download it, and you can. A lot of them have like I pay the extra money for Amazon Music. I get the 24-bit 96 like the original studio level recording. It's
Now,
a
are
little
you
bit
able to
better.
download albums with that or no?
You you can't. Yeah, you can as long as you have the service. Just like with iTunes, it'll still
Well, see,
work.
because I buy albums through there once in a while, and I even have I'm in like the record service,
Hmm.
like the monthly record service, and once in a while, as long as they have the digital copy, I'll
Hmm.
get the MP3 and then I'll get the record in the mail. But see,
Yeah,
like they've been like eliminating CD almost everywhere. Like CD has been like random.
yeah. And a matter of
That
fact,
bothers me.
I just got this one, because they still put them out, but I mean, I still buy the
What's that
CDs.
one?
That's Joe
Joe.
Bonamosa's new album. He's a blues artist.
Oh, cool.
Joe Bonamosa, Time
Funny, I
Clocks.
just got my own. Oh shit!
In fact, I've got tickets to his concert when he comes back down this way again in
I
March.
actually
So
got a 2021 CD release, but it's not a new album, believe it or not. Of course,
yeah, this just came out this week. This is
Escape
brand
from
new.
LA.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the expanded edition of the. Actually, I don't even know if the score has ever been released for this
Mhm.
before, but yeah, that's the score anyway.
Yeah, but like
But no, like yeah.
I'll put these on Amazon Music because my car doesn't have a freaking CD player
Well,
anymore.
I've been waiting for the
But
Ghostbusters Afterlife score to come out. I'm like, is it coming to CD? What's the deal? And now I'm hearing it's like the week after the movie. It don't until it comes out. So I'm like, what the hell?
I
I
haven't
mean,
heard any of the music. I mean, is
there's
the
a few
soundtrack
tracks
out?
online. No, that's the thing. I haven't been able to find it. It's supposed to be
Okay.
coming out. They're not doing a pop soundtrack this time, which kind of is bites. But again, what new bands are around to make anything decent?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about that. But like I'm hoping there's some people that claim there are tracks from the soundtrack out on YouTube, but I don't know how legit they are.
I'll wait. I mean, the movie's what, a week away at this point?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
10 days.
I mean, I've seen a listing for it, but it like says coming soon and shit like that, and the date is like I said, set for the week after the movie comes out.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd rather have it on CD, SX, HBK. I just got into this. I wouldn't call it an argument, but I got into a back and forth with clearly a vinyl enthusiast, and I'm like, dude, I don't buy new vinyl. I don't. Unless I know it's mastered from the analog masters, because you're better off just buying a fucking CD because it's just
That's
basically what it is.
it's exactly right. And I look, I love vinyl too. I grew up around. I'm a big vinyl fan. I mean, I just don't have a turntable in the house right now. But that being said, yeah, everything these days that you hear new music, it's all mastered digitally. It's all
Yeah.
being run. It's being recorded on
There's only a
on
few artists that still do analog, and that's like
yeah.
Ghost and a few others that actually release them on record, and those are the exceptions. Unless you get like I think the Beatles ones, they've been doing a pretty good job at releasing those from the analog masters.
Yeah.
But like my big question was because I thought the Guns N' Roses masters were lost. I haven't bought that vinyl set yet. I did buy the big box. Did I buy the box set of
Mhm.
Appetite for Destruction? I think I did. I can't remember now if I did or not because I was like questioning whether or not it actually came from the masters. Like, because that's the big question now because of that fucking fire.
If it was one of those things, well, we went back to the original master tapes and then we remastered them digitally. Well, then
That's
putting
usually
it
the
on
case.
vinyl,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you've already gone through that quantization process, and then it had to be re-rendered down to analog. No, vinyl works great if like Tom said, you're gonna go back and find a $2,000 copy of Abbey Road or something.
Well,
Yes,
even
that's
then
what
you
you
can
want.
find actually pretty readily available, but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, but I mean, like an original prior. So, I
You're
mean,
talking
my
like
point
early,
is,
early Beatles maybe, but yeah.
yeah, I'm like, go back and find like things that were originally
Like
mastered
Meet
and
the
recorded.
Beatles and shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, in analog, and they were
Or even
never
classic Led
quantized at any
Zeppelin,
point.
classic Floyd, all
Any
that
of that,
stuff.
yeah, any of that.
Because
But I
all the
mean,
new stuff is from a digital master, you're right.
hell yeah, it's going right into a computer. It's going right into a DAW, a digital audio software, and it's they're either recording it on Adobe Logic, or excuse me, Apple Logic Pro, or can't remember some of the other ones right now. But there's Cakewalk, some of these other things out there, these digital recording studios, and that's all it is. There's no analog anymore. Once it gets out of the microphone, it's going into a
Since
board,
basically
and
like the late 80s, yeah.
that's it. It's in a computer.
There's
Yeah.
a few exceptions, but pretty much since like if I remember right, the first digital album complete top to bottom was Brothers in Arms from um Dire Straits. If I remember right. And that was what,
Was it that far
87?
back? When I don't
I
remember
think so.
having
That
that
was
many
the
that far
first
back.
digitally recorded album, yeah, from what I remember. And then I think the first original digital score ever released was Batman 89, and the first digital soundtrack was La Bamba. Um, that I know, I think.
Mhm.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but was Brothers in Arms 87 or was that 86? Was that even earlier than that?
I don't remember. I
That
have to
may have
look
been
it up.
earlier than that because that was pretty early 80s, wasn't it?
Larry with mini disc. Yeah, I remember those, the Sony mini discs. But but again, a lot of that stuff that went on mini disc, it wasn't mastered in digital. It was it was put out in a digital format like a CD. But I mean, most of that stuff back then, like Tom said, up until we got really into the 90s is
Pretty
when
much
it
everything
became
was
more and
digital
more.
then.
Yeah. Everything was still done on analog tape.
Yeah, for the most part, once you get in the 90s, it's almost all digital then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, but no, like most of my record collection of the stuff I actually listen to, 90% of it is classic vinyl. It's
Right.
nothing new. A lot of the newer stuff I have is just newer releases that were only released on vinyl
Mhm.
and or just collectors kind of shit, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's just because I have it because I was a collector item thing. I already have it on CD or whatever anyway. So, but that's another thing that's going on right now is that music enthusiasts are getting pissed that they need to put a new coding system on the records like they used to on CDs, so you know what the mastering process is for these. Because people like me are sick and tired of spending twice as much for basically an inferior CD copy. Now you can like the way a record sounds. That's not what
Mhm.
we're arguing about here, or that's not what we're discussing, I should say. What we're talking about is the fact that you cannot tell me that you're getting a better quality copy out of something that's basically a second or third generation of something you can get a one-to-one digital copy of. It just
Right.
makes no
Exactly.
sense to me. What you're not, it doesn't compute in any way. You can say you like the sound it makes on a record better.
Mhm.
That's totally up to you. But you can't tell me it's technically better because it isn't. There's just no way. It has the limitations.
No,
So
not if it was something that was mastered in digital. It's that's it. I mean, it's you're adding and basically what you're doing is you're adding an extra step of transfer to the process that does not need to be there. Versus
exactly,
classic records that of songs mastered in analog, they went from an analog tape to an analog record direct.
exactly.
There was no intermediary in terms of it had to transfer into a different format and then go back and no, no,
Now, if
no.
you want to get into an argument about some older sounding CDs and then get into like when you get into the compression age and all that shit, that's a
Oh,
totally
that's
different
yeah,
discussion to have.
yeah.
Like we're talking a completely different thing because back then, yeah, a lot of the CDs that came out, those were from the masters that were mastered for records, so they have those issues. So they
Right.
were specifically tailored for those, and then they didn't start doing that until the 90s, and then they got to a point where like, oh, let's compress the fucking hell out of everything. So then you have this patch of the late 90s through all the way up until now through MP3s where everything is fucking compressed,
Oh, MP3s are terrible.
unless they've actually went back to the original discs, Jesus Christ, the original tapes, and actually went track by track and remastered them completely from top to bottom. And the only ones that I know that have done that so far have been like the Beatles, the Doors,
Mhm.
Beach Boys. I think not all their catalog, but some of their catalog. Queen. Um, I don't know if the Rolling Stones and ACDC have or not, but I think they have. But I have like a lot of those remasters, and in most cases, I think they sound better. It's again up to you, your choice, how you want it. that's just your choice. But to
Mhm.
me, like a lot of the new Beatles remasters sounds amazing, but I know a lot of people don't like the liberties that were taken with some of the things either.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the old Beatles stuff, it has a very, very specific sound because it was recorded at Abbey Road
Well, and
Studios.
it all depends
They
on
had
where you were when you bought those albums too.
well, there's that too, but I mean, like, there's even like some of the sound recording software I have an actual plugin for my DAW that is the Abbey Road Studio compressor. Like they went in and they sampled it, and I think I paid like $40 for this thing. And they basically, because it was a custom, finishing compressor, mastering compressor, that only Abbey Road Studios has, because it was a custom built one, and that's why everybody's like, when you hear something that was recorded there, especially to sound engineers, it has a very distinct sound that it came from that studio because of those mastering compressors that they use. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that you don't want to, when you remaster these things, you don't want to get rid of that, because that's what made it so unique, especially with the Beatles. That was the signature sound.
Yeah. Cosmic Swirl says I have a 45 collection of the 50s to the 70s, a lot from some great collection. 45 sound great because that's
Mhm.
the best thing is they're mastered at higher speed, so you get actually a better quality sound out of them.
Mhm.
So, especially if you get the huge 12-inch singles, those are great too. Hydro PL27 says, are they doing what I think they're doing to The Outsiders? Probably not. Believe it or not, nothing bad has been done to The Outsiders, unless you're just not a fan of the new score that Francis Ford Coppola added to the complete novel version. Outside of that, no, they actually released the theatrical cut and the other version all together. We were celebrating the fact that it was a very well done release, actually.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
And yeah, let's see here. Rambo Last Blood Left Prime, maybe a Blu-ray in its future.
Pretty sure it's already on physical media,
It
is it
is,
not?
but I think what I know what he means. I don't know if we'll ever get a 4K edition of the extended cut. We should.
Oh,
I don't know why there wouldn't be a version of it out there, unless he just did it in 2K. But that was the international version, so I would think it would have had to been in 4K. It'd be nice. That's the only one that we haven't got yet is that extended cut of Last Blood, because it's only available on digital 1080p. Did you even know that or not?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure I have a physical media copy of it.
Yeah, the physical media copies, the cut down version.
Okay.
And we
I saw
discovered this, and it was
I
really
saw it in the
funny.
theater, and then I bought the
Yeah,
disc.
yeah.
So, yeah.
See, here's the funny thing about this movie. When it came out, Andre and I were really like jazzed up about it because we love Rambo, right?
Mhm.
And we reviewed it with two other people. One of which was Mr. H. Of course, he's from not the U.S., and the other was Matt Kadish, who is from the U.S. like me. So you had two guys from the U.S., two guys who weren't. About 2 or 3 times throughout that damn conversation, they kept having to go to Matt. Did you see the same movie as us? And I even said in one part, I'm like, that wasn't in the movie.
I remember you talking about this
And
now.
so
Okay.
finally it come out that, yeah, there was two different versions of the movie out there. In a lot of markets internationally, they got this hour and 45-minute version of the movie, whereas in some other markets, especially specifically in the US, you only got like this 92-minute cut of the movie or whatever it was. So when it came out on disc, they did release both versions, but the extended cut was only available on Amazon Prime and digital download. And you got a code with the box set to get it digitally downloaded. So
Okay.
that's the only way it's been is just a 1080p version of it, which sucks because it's the superior version of the film. So hopefully it gets a true disc release at some point, which is funny because they did do both versions of Rambo from 2000 whatever on
6 or
4K.
2009.
Yeah,
2009.
both of those versions, as far as I know, are on the 4K disc. So
I'm trying to remember the difference.
the difference is one version's longer and has less violence and a little bit more dramatic scenes, and then the
Okay.
other version's the more like hardcore cut. Like it's a lot more
Yeah.
graphic violence and not as much slow
I
down
have to go back. It's
scenes.
been a while since I've watched that one.
There,
That was absolutely one of my favorites. I think that might have been my
that
favorite that
is
he ever
probably one of
did.
the better of the.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the superior of the sequels, definitely. Yeah, and that's another one, Duck Nation. I hope at some point. But the reason that we probably don't have one of those yet is I'm assuming that's an exclusive deal with Netflix. So
That's what
it's
I would bet.
probably whenever they decide they're going to allow that.
They broke it up into like 4 episodes on
Yeah, but it's
Netflix.
great.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I love that movie. The extended cut, I'll never go back
Your
now.
boy in the snow on his knees in my. I'm not gonna do it.
Um, I wouldn't get my hopes up too much on this DMB Trek. The new versions that are coming out are all the same extras that came out before, from my recollection.
Yeah, I was looking
Because
at
Robert
those.
Meyer Burnett, who worked on those, was very disappointed to hear that they were just re-releasing everything again outside of the 4K versions. So as far as I know, there's nothing new being added, unfortunately.
Snazzy new cover to make people buy.
That's about it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just carrying over all the extras is all.
Yeah.
Because the versions that are out there now are just bare bones with the movies on them, and that's it.
Which is fine, because I still have the Blu-rays that have all the extras on them, and then I've got the 4K copies of the movies. So it's like they're done. Yeah. Got it all.
Yeah, Joey, I think of this all the time. Irony is that your eyes get worse with age, and we spend more and more time getting higher quality pictures. Youth is wasted on the young. That's what's funny is I see more youth. They're like, oh my God, it looks too oldsy. And they'll up convert shit to 60 frames a second and all this other crap out there. And it's like, quit ruining shit. The one that bothers me the most is the asshole that thinks he did a good thing by taking the motion blur out of the Ed 209 scenes of
RoboCop.
The YouTuber. Oh, yeah. It's like, you dumb shit. They were put in there on purpose. Like, that was...
Not everything has to look like a video game.
Phil Tippett, that was his thing.
I know.
He perfected that.
We do not need 60 and 120 FPS.
Oh, I hate that. It all looks like a soap opera.
They've been doing it at 24 for 100 years, and they're going to keep doing it at 24 for the next 100 years.
And I see our buddy Willie's here in the chat. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, remembers Yellow Flag. Yeah, well, he also likes Godzilla 98 too, so there's no accounting for taste. So it says Holy Hand Grenade says, am I going to have to make my own 4K prawn channel and grow bigger than you guys? Okay, then go for it. That's one thing I haven't seen a lot of on 4K disc is porn. Believe it or not.
I guess you got the internet.
I know that's the problem, but I mean, look, to be honest with you, I don't really give a shit about porn, but I do have, like, if I'm going to ever really watch porn, and I know this is like TMI to people, but no, like I do feel like the classic films should be preserved, right? I'm not shitting you. Like Deep Throat, Debbie Does Dallas.
Yeah, I knew this was
all these movies that were actually shot on fucking film.
Yeah.
Should be preserved.
That's what we need. We need 4K remastering of that 70s Bush.
Hey, I know Synapse or whatever, not Synapse, Vinegar Syndrome does a few. They have done a few. But most of the time they're just 2K masters. So yeah, Behind the Green Door, yeah. Devil and Miss Jones. Yeah, see, there's classics.
Oh man, here we go.
Yeah.
Featuring John Holmes and
yeah
in 3D
in 4K. Was there ever a 3D porn movie? There had to have been a couple.
I'm sure somebody did it. Somebody did it back in the days when you had like the red and blue glasses you had to put on.
Well, not even that. I'm thinking there's got to at least be some polarized 3D, because guys, remember, not even up until even during the video age, you could still find porn theaters in bigger cities. I mean, come on. I gotta imagine at some point they did some porn in polarized 3D.
Let's call Paul Rubens and ask him.
He would know.
He would know.
Well, they do have Taboo. Vinegar Syndrome does on regular 2K, and they did do Sex World, I think, in 4K though, if I remember right. I think that's more of a softcore porn though. I can't remember. I know I got Flesh Gordon, but that's a softcore. That's yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think we've beaten this one enough.
No pun intended.
I want to thank all of you for hopping in here. I see we had actually a little bit of a late boost. Looks like Ricada must have finished. I seen that some of you said you come in from Ricada's, and hopefully he's getting some rest now if he is done, because he has been going like an animal the last few days. But
12-hour days for like
he has earned it, my friend.
Yeah. And then he still he right now he's probably taking a break. He's going to go take a nap for an hour, and then he's going to jump back on and read 500 super chats.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, those are good problems to have,
Oh, they are. Yeah.
Tom, what do you think is going to happen in the cash grab film, The Matrix 4 Resurrection? Well, that's a little bit out of our purview right now because that's not what we're talking about, but I'll just say this. I have no expectations for it, so the best thing it can do is be better than the last two. And I just don't think that's even I think it's just gonna be I think it's gonna suck. It's gonna be like Crystal Skull level suck.
I
That's
hope
my
not. I'm with you. I'm cautiously optimistic. I want it to be good because I love the Matrix, but yeah, I know. I just
and we got Mecha J who says it's a Recator 8. So yeah, thank you guys for those who are hopping over here from there. Appreciate that. Um that's awesome. But yeah, we're gonna be wrapping these things up unless you guys have one or two more questions for us. I think we can field at least one or two more, but otherwise I think we're gonna wrap this up. Oh, we got Snowdub here. How you doing, buddy? Uh See a few more
hey.
people popping in here. Yeah, we
Yeah.
gained like 20 people here in the last couple
No, I just
minutes.
noticed it. We went up to 100. We were hanging around 110, 115, and then bang, it was 130.
Yeah.
So everybody's coming in. Yeah, we just got
Thank
off
you.
Mercator show.
What's a
So
good portable movie projector like for camping? Oh, I don't know. Have you gotten into projectors much? VR? I haven't.
I have one at my wife's music school. It's an Epson. Now it's not a portable. I mean, it's like a $2,500 4K projector. But I've seen these things. The nice thing is if you're going to use them like truly for like camping and stuff like this, you're going to be outside. Ostensibly, you're going to be somewhere where it's going to be pitch black.
I would look for
You know,
durability and cost.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't need anything that's going to be exceptionally bright. You don't need something that's got, 3,000 lumen. I mean, you can, but you don't need it.
Honestly, you might
Mm.
find something around Black Friday that would suit your needs.
That's what I would,
And
yeah.
if it's not that expensive, you won't feel bad if it gets ruined in your first trip or something. I would experiment in that case because I don't know much about them. Obviously, VR knows more. I
Mhm.
mean, if you're looking for quality and all
I've
that kind
never
of crap,
used like
you're
the
not going to want to
portable.
spend the kind of money you're going to want for true great quality, like for all that kind of stuff.
No, they're not gonna. I mean, if you're gonna get up to that point, you're just gonna buy a regular projector. You're gonna be hooking it up to a little portable Honda generator, one of those little quiet
No,
generators or
but there
something.
is out there now. There's these little front throw projectors that are fairly affordable that are about the size of a phone.
I've seen some of those. I don't know
That
how
would
good they
probably
are.
be what I've seen them. They're pretty good for probably what you're doing. That would probably be my best bet. If not, just go for a cheapy like Walmart RCA special.
Mhm.
It'd
I'll
be
be
my
honest with you. The most important thing for a projector is the screen. I mean, if you put
yeah,
up a white sheet, you're gonna get. You can take a $5,000 projector and make it look like shit.
exactly. Yeah.
Because the screen does make a difference, the reflectivity of it. Screens actually have little particles of glass on there.
Yes.
That's how
Yeah.
they bang light back at you. In some screens, you'll see like a gain rating of it has a gain of 1, which means it's 1 to
Yeah.
1. You put 1 in, you get 1 out. Some have high gains, like they're 1.2, 1.3,
In
because they're
some
actually.
cases, you'll almost spend more on a better screen than you will the fucking projector.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We used to have people that spent 3,000, 4,000 on a projector, and then they'd spend another 2,000, 3,000 on a screen. I mean, it's the way you do
But
it.
in some cases, you can find a real cheap screen.
Yeah.
Especially hit like if you're in an area that's still doing yard sales. If you find somebody who has like an old school like fucking tripod fucking
Well, I was gonna say
screen,
was
that'll work just great.
I've got one of these collapsible screens that I
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
use all the time, and they're like 150 bucks, and I think it might be like a 60-inch, 70-inch.
Well,
It's
my
not
point is you
big.
don't have to break the bank. You can do it
No,
pretty cheap, and
and
especially
it's
if you're doing it camping, like you're
perfectly
doing
good
it
screen.
outside. Exactly.
Yeah, just don't
Um,
use a sheet or something like that. Don't
and
think
if
you
you're
can get
gonna
away with
use a
not
sheet,
using. Yeah.
if you're gonna use a sheet since you're outside camping and stuff like that, that's understandable. Then just don't
Mhm.
worry about a fancy ass projector. You can get like
Yeah,
a $50 RCA projector from Walmart,
yeah,
and it'll do just what you guys need to for camping like that, and just to have fun doing like a drive-in outdoor movie kind of thing.
yeah.
I've seen a lot of people do that lately, but the projectors have come down in price so much and the quality has gone up so high. Like VR said, you're more at the
Mhm.
mercy of whatever you're projecting it on than anything. I've even seen some low end 480 to 720p projectors that actually look pretty goddamn good. I've been
Yeah, it
impressed.
depends if you're taking the kids out and you're gonna watch, like some animated movie or something. I
Yeah,
mean, if you're just
yeah,
kinda goofing off and having fun, then don't worry about it so much, like I said, but I'd rather you actually get a decent little portable screen because, again, I think that has more impact than
yeah.
anything
And like I
that
said,
you're gonna
even
do.
if you don't want to spend 80 to $150 on a screen, go to a yard sale, even like an old school auction where they have like old those old, like, just, like tripod projectors where you just pull them down. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
they
they're
have a bunch of
portable
these
enough.
things on
Yeah.
Amazon for between some of them are 60, 70
There
bucks.
you go. Perfect. Yeah.
They have some nicer ones that have a built-in speaker for 2.99, and they look awesome. I mean,
So there you go.
100-inch picture up to that 4-hour video playtime, so it's got a
That's the
rechargeable battery in
beauty
it.
of yeah, that's the beauty of this. You want something that's portable, you want something that's durable, that you're gonna worry about more than the
It's a native
quality.
480 resolution. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but I
See,
mean, you're gonna but if this is just something to go out and have fun with the kids camping, they're gonna watch
yeah,
cartoons.
720p will be plenty probably, even if you can
Yeah.
find one of those. You can find those pretty affordable too. Just kinda read the fine print if you're that worried about it.
Yeah, they have one
Um,
for 120 bucks that's at it's 1280 by 720.
yeah. That'd be my only thing I'd worry about.
Mhm.
Yeah, from the old slideshows, exactly, Stanley. Mango Badger says, "Quick super, thanks for another great show." Well, thank you, Mango Badger. Appreciate that. Um, let's see here. Zontar says, "Why do old consoles look different on CRT TVs? Why do old consoles look different? Oh, you mean like game consoles? If you're talking about game consoles, that's because they're set up for CRT TVs. That's why.
Mhm.
An old screen resolution was like roughly 360p, I think,
That was
ish.
nothing.
Or
Yeah.
actually, yeah, or actually it's
It's about
interlaced now.
400. Yeah, you're in the
Yeah, in
ballpark.
that area. And that's why, so if you try to put it on like a newer screen, it doesn't look as good. That's why a lot of these new mini portable, or not mini portable, but the mini like Nintendos and all that stuff, they have them up converted to HD or whatever.
Yeah, you just go HDMI out, and so they already have all that stuff built in. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about game consoles.
Yeah.
I know you can get some. I think you can get these little deals that'll up convert the picture, but honestly, if you're a classic gamer, from what I've been told, if you get like one of those little minis, or just get like a Raspberry Pi, you can load them up with all kinds of different things and they'll output an HDMI and you'll get a
Mhm.
much better quality picture. So that technology's out there already. It just, it's more, I think it depends more on the emulator that you're running it with, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know much about those, like the third
Yeah, I
party
know very
versions.
little about that, but
I
yeah.
can't tell you. I mean, I have a Retron that has the Super Nintendo, Nintendo Genesis, and original Sega if in it. Retron 5, I think is what it's called. And I mean, it's a straight HDMI out. And the reason I like them is because I can still take all my original Nintendo, Sega controllers and plug them in. They have all the ports for the original stuff, which I still have all the original systems.
There you go.
Yeah.
Here's a question I can never seem to get away from, but I don't mind answering. KR Nut asks, will we ever get official 4K original versions of Star Wars Empire and Jedi? If not, looks like I'll have to resort to fan restorations. At this point, I'm
No.
willing to bet in our lifetime, the best versions we'll have for a while are 4K 77 and 4K 83 and hopefully 4K 80 when they get that done. Because I can tell you this, if Disney could release those original versions, they would. There's something there, a deal made with George Lucas. He is adamant that those are the only versions that exist now. Um, so I'm sure he has it that it's set up to where it's probably like something like 50 years after he dies. Maybe. Just maybe.
Yeah.
Or right after he dies, maybe. I don't know. But I'm sure as
Who
long as
knows?
he's alive, he will fight tooth and nail to make sure the original versions never officially get released in any good form. Because as far as he's concerned, those are not the ones.
Right.
But they exist. Because they had to scan them to make the new versions they have now.
Oh yeah.
But and we've also had people say that they've actually seen screenings of new prints at Disney and stuff like that. But that just doesn't mean they're going to be able to release them publicly unless they have some kind of way of doing it legally without pissing off George Lucas.
Right.
And I don't think he signed over all the rights like that, because even Hitchcock had a lot of stipulations on his films on when they could make remakes and sequels and all that business.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming George has the same kind of control in that respect. Even if he did sell them, uh, yeah, I'm still sure that they made a deal. And I think Kathleen Kennedy already answered that question for us. I think she said flat out that that's George's visions and we would never mess with them or something like that. She said, yeah.
Yep. Well, I am gonna have to get going because I do have a kiddo
No,
to pick
that's
up
fine. We
shortly.
are
Yeah.
gonna wrap it up anyway. Thank you so much, guys, especially for the late incomers. We appreciate that. Uh, do check us out next week at this same time. I believe we're going to be doing it again. Yeah, until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And if you have any other 4K questions for us, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or on email. You can always do that as well, or even just throw a comment in the thing there, and I try to get to those as much as I can. But we appreciate the reception that you guys have had to this show. We neither one of us expected it to be as big as it was, and I know we had a few less people than we normally have watching tonight, but I know there's a lot going on, so
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I can understand that. And so if somebody's watching this on the replay, thank you so much for coming back and checking us out. We appreciate that. And in fact, maybe I'll even ask Andre to leave it listed a little bit longer than he normally does, just so you guys can find it a little easier. But otherwise, if you want to find the classic shows and you haven't been able to check them out yet, go to our live archive channel in the playlist. That will lead you to all our previous episodes. So there you go. That's where you got to go to find them, because somebody asked this morning as well. So thank you much, guys. Take care of each other, and we will see you next time.